Hi, many of you watching this video will know who I am, but for those who don't, my name's Kevin Carpenter. I'm 33 years old and I live in England. I'm a lawyer by trade, sort of specialising in sports, a rugby union referee and many things in between. But I've also, over the recent years, been increasingly open and posting on various outlets, be it Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, about the issues I have with depression. And I'm recording this video this morning. It's really been prompted by two things. The first one was that, of course, it's Mental Health Awareness Week through the Mental Health Foundation, with this year's theme being kindness, and I'll come on to that a little bit more later. But perhaps most importantly, because I have faced again a downturn in my mental health, and the reason why I've decided to be open about the issues I face is partially because it's a way of me opening up in a manner which, although I do speak to people I know and love face to face about it, actually the great thing about doing it through this forum is that people can either choose to engage or not to engage, and that's absolutely fine. Those who do wish to, I really hope there's something in this and in the things I've said previously which have helped realise it's you're not alone. And for those who don't, I certainly don't think any less of you. It's not something that's easy to understand, and I'll come on to that a little bit later on, actually, about where people who you do know and love and respect perhaps don't always, can't always empathise with you about mental health issues. So, some brief background, really. I first became aware of my depressive tendencies, shall we say, when I was 18 years old. I'm now, as I said, coming to my mid-30s and have to deal with this, what I consider to be an illness, on an almost daily basis. Don't underestimate it. Certainly, if you have any feelings, whether it's depression, anxiety, whatever it might be, it's an illness that needs to be treated like any physical condition does. Throughout the 15 years since first becoming aware of it, I've been had a sort of heightened awareness to my feelings, but there has been some incredibly dark and frightening moments. And the only thing that's really stopped me from doing something I might regret in the past is, sadly, not really a sense of self-worth, but really not wanting to hurt other people who love and care about me. And obviously, it shouldn't be that way. I've always been an emotional person, and also a high achiever from a young age, and wanted to be the best at everything, whether it was a son, a boyfriend, a friend, at work, and any other possible thing you can think of. Objectively, of course, this is entirely unsustainable and destructive, but it's a mindset which is difficult to change because it comes from within me. It's not as a result of any external expectations from anyone. Never have my parents or anyone ever pushed me to do something. It's always been something that's been within me. One thing I'm constantly trying to remember is that you can only be the best you can be. You're not the best at everything, or probably at anything. That's just the way life is. Unfortunately, my destructive mind, thoughts and processes have led me to do things that have pushed people close to me away in the past, and I've lost many important things in my life. In my 20s particularly, there were too many times when I was scared to reveal this side of my personality to people who love me and have known me for a long time, principally for a fear of losing them. It's wholly irrational, I know that, and all it led to were flashpoints of extreme behaviour which caused hurt and damage to both myself and other people. And it's sad to say that ultimately a lot of the good and positive things in my life have been undermined by my own mind. To try and work through this, I've had therapy on a number of occasions over the years, different types, including psychiatry, psychology, counselling, hypnotherapy. But it's fair to say that I'm sure most people see this, that there is no one single method or treatment that has worked for me yet. I've obviously been diagnosed and by a doctor, and I have accepted the offer of medication on and off over the years, and I'm currently on medication, principally to try and achieve some sort of short to medium term stability. I know it's not a long-term cure by any stretch, but I had to recognise it was an illness and that the stigma of the medication had to go to one side. One other thing about engaging in any sort of therapy that you need to go in with open eyes is that you also have to be realistic that there's going to be more pain before the blue skies appear again, and equally don't put any pressure in terms of any sort of time limit on your recovery. I think with the medication, I'd also like to say that I've made the mistake before of thinking that I'm feeling okay and then just stopping medication. And that goes against medical advice, and it can actually lead to quite a severe step back in your overall well-being. So please don't ever do that. For example, I dropped half my dosage as a process to try and come off the medication recently, and it didn't go well, so I had to go back to what I was before, and that's fine for the time being. But as I say, always bear in mind, try not to become dependent, because it's not a long-term solution. My recent bout of depression came from various sources, really. Obviously, being in lockdown, being somebody who needs to get out and about and needs to see people and keep social contact, and although I've tried to do that through the ways that everyone has, through House Party or Zoom or whatever it might be, it's not quite the same. I let work pressures build. I have a number of different roles and I've not managed those well at all. Really building up since sort of last August, September. My last remaining grandparents also been in hospital, and obviously we've not been able to see her or speak, or thankfully been able to speak to her, but can't go and see her or anything like that because of COVID. And our family's not in a unique position. Many families are in that situation. I also have some other family issues with family members who are causing problems, and we've had to get lawyers involved and police, and it's not. So, and I'm sure I've forgotten other things that have happened, but ultimately it got to the point where a couple of Fridays ago, I just sat and stared at the wall in the living room and couldn't speak or do anything. And I knew at that point, I know when my mental symptoms manifest themselves in physical symptoms and anxiety about speaking to anyone or doing anything, that I've not intervened soon enough, and that's something I'll come back to. And that ultimately that's led to tears and a lot of emotion and opening up to my girlfriend, or opening up more, should I say, to my girlfriend. And it's been a pretty dark time. I've just been looking down, not really been looking up. which has been challenging. I say, which kind of led me to this thought that this is an avenue where I could, some sort of therapy, I guess, for me, as much as I hope it helps people out there understand me better and also understand their own conditions better. Talking of work, I'm a lawyer. I work in a internationally where, the normal, it's not as if you're working in one time zone and something's always happening, and I went out in my late 20s and decided that a life of employed legal practice wasn't for me, and set my own consultancy and moved back to my parents, and took a real risk, which obviously as lawyers we're not really trained to take any risks. But that's what I did, and it worked out well. And then I chose to go back in some sort of employment, and now also work in academia. What I would say, and this isn't a careers talk, and perhaps I will do I've done a chat with people in the past about careers and podcasts and things, but I might do a careers talk at some point. But actually, all I would say is that nothing with career, or nothing with your work or anything clients want comes before your own health and well-being. Nothing. Despite what some people may say, you don't need to be online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The people who are employing you or engaging you have lives as well. Don't be afraid to push back. If they don't understand that you have a life as well, then it's not somebody I want to work with or work for, because it's just unrealistic, and it's not, going back to this kindness, expecting you as a service provider just to keep going and going. Eventually you will do what happened to me, and you will just crash. So be honest. Communication is key. Be open and honest about deadlines and timescales, etc. And this applies to any job, really. If you're not going to achieve something, just be open. As I've always said, I'll not be annoyed if you come to me and somebody says, sorry, I'm not going to get this done in time, various reasons, can we agree another time? That's fine, I can manage expectations. If you miss the deadline and then try and cover it up or blame it on somebody else, which is even worse, then I wouldn't be very happy about that. But yeah, communication's key, and I'm not preaching, I'm not perfect, I don't always achieve these things. And when I come on to talk about some of the things which I've done, which has helped me over the years with my mental health in my personal life, professionally, and in other areas, then yeah, you'll see that I don't always achieve what I set out to. I'm not perfect, as none of us are. So that's work, really, and how mental health and work come together, I think, in short. Coming on to the theme of Mental Health Awareness Week, the idea of kindness. I know in recent times a lot of this has been sort of put in the frame of social media and being kind to people and not abusing them and not sending negative comments when you don't need to, and I support all of that. But to me, kindness is really about being kind to yourself, and this is something I've consistently failed to be. I'm not kind to myself. I beat myself up. I constantly fear, and this links in a bit to work, is I have that sort of fear of missing out with work. If in my area, if I'm not being involved in something, or I worry about why, and I think about why, what have I not done, rather than thinking, well, you don't need to do everything, you don't need to be everything to everyone. So be pleased for somebody else. Feel gratitude, be glad for other people. That's a nice feeling. Don't think, oh, I should be doing this, or I should be doing more. That's not the case. So there's a lot of things in life, and if coronavirus has taught us anything, there's a lot of things that are out of our control, and we just have to ultimately learn to adjust and learn to, be kind to ourselves and to one another in times that we can't control. So if there's one thing I wish I'd done differently over the years, it would have been being kinder to me, ultimately. I don't really have. I like to think that I've been a good listener, and I'm always more than happy to listen to my friends, family, or anybody else who reaches out and just sit and listen, and not always give an opinion. Sometimes try and give guidance or a different view, but listening is an absolutely vital skill. And I know that's slightly ironic, because what I'm doing here is just talking, but you will not only help the person you're listening to, but you will also learn a lot yourself by just sitting and listening. I think that's an overlooked skill in life in general. So, coming towards sort of the end of this video, which has gone on longer than I thought it might, but here are some of the things that I've sort of jotted down that I've done and recommend to you, which have helped me over the years, and you might want to try and see what helps. So the first thing is that accept that the feelings you have are unlikely to go away completely, but be positive and try and retain optimism and hope that things will get easier in the long term due to a combination of different approaches and methods and things you do. Some of the things I'm going to talk about in the next few minutes. One element of my recovery that is vital, and this is not reinventing the wheel, is exercise. I'm not someone who is naturally motivated or has a desire to exercise. My fitness is a constant battle. I pay for everything I eat. I'm not that disciplined. I could do better. And I've let my physical fitness as well as my mental fitness suffer as a result of work, and I shouldn't. Because what I do know for sure, and many of you will know, is that the benefits to the mind, let alone the body, of exercise means it must be built into as a regular part of your week. I don't like to say day, because putting daily things in can be a bit of a pressure, but certainly 2 or 3 times a week. And I don't like running, I don't like cycling, and I don't like doing group things necessarily. So I have to find other ways of keeping fit, and whether that's doing swimming, whether that's playing golf, whether that's playing tennis, whether it's doing something, badminton, being active in other ways, don't mean just going to the gym and doing workouts or doing classes, because that's just not my idea of fun at all. One of the key things with exercise is to commit to that first step outside the door. Once you get to the gym, in my experience, or you get to wherever you're going to go to do exercise, the first 5-10 minutes as well is, you think, I'm never going to get through this. And I often think that with refereeing as well. I think, how am I going to make this 80 minutes or 90 minutes when I was doing football? But actually then you get into a rhythm and the endorphins start to run, and it's great. As I say, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but just to say how I try and do my physical exercise. The next thing is really try and open up to your close family and friends and other loved ones who you've never told before about your feelings and the thoughts and the emotions you're going through. Something I mentioned earlier is be prepared for the fact that some of them will not understand, or some of them will not want to discuss. That doesn't mean you can't have a fulfilling relationship with them. It just means you know where the boundaries are, and that's no bad thing. However, others may offer the support and may even reveal their own similar feelings and troubles to you. By bottling it up means you're not being true to yourself, and you're not being open with others closest to you. And ultimately, by bottling it up, you will just at some point collapse. And that's happened to me in very dramatic ways in the past. A big one in life, personally, and very much in work: learn to say no. And again, I have not been good at this over the years, particularly in my professional life. Always thinking I must take on the next thing. When you're self-employed, as I was for a while, fully self-employed, you always feel as though you have to say yes just in case, when's the next thing coming. And again, in COVID times, I think a lot of people will be feeling this. Equally, there's no shame in not doing something socially because on that particular day you need some space and time to yourself. Learn to enjoy your own company. Everyone needs it from time to time, be it reading, watching a film, or whatever it is that you enjoy. Equally, as I've said, work does not come before your own personal health and well-being. And when I was in private practice, speaking to trainees, for example, one of the first things I always said was the most important thing, or VAC scheme even, one of the most important things you will learn and one of the most liberating things is when you first say no to something. Next, recognize the triggers for your change of mood. Once you've recognized them, if you can, and equally if you want to, because almost everything I'm saying here has to be driven by you. As somebody very close to me said recently, I can't fix you. And that's hard for somebody who loves you to say or to accept, that it's only you ultimately that has to. And it's the same if, people with addictions, ultimately it comes down to them. Sometimes being in a bad mood or being depressed can become a bit of an addiction. So once you've recognized your triggers, if you can, try and minimize them or even remove them completely from your life, if you can. What led me to the last couple of weeks of trouble was the fact that I didn't recognize the triggers, and by not recognizing them, I couldn't act on them and be proactive and intervene before something happened. And ultimately what that's now led to is me having to, ironically, given the times we're living in, sort of isolate myself a little bit and try and pick myself up without impacting other people's lives. A little bit linked to the exercise one is the fact that training your mind is like training your body. So it takes knowledge of what to do, dedication, patience, and practice. Therefore, listen intently when you go and speak to a GP, a counsellor, or whoever you see or speak to, and also read literature websites to learn about other people's experiences, because that will help you understand more about your condition. If and when you feel comfortable, and for some of you, you may never get to this point, but some of you, this might encourage you to do it a bit sooner. Share your experiences of mental health, and other people who also experience different things will thank you for it. I know for sure. Be open to new methods, approaches, and experiences to find out what truly works for you. Try not to dismiss anything out of hand. And again, being given I work in sport and integrity, and I'm probably more cynical and skeptical for my age than most. But try and be open and just see what happens. I mean, for example, in the past, I decided to read The Art of Happiness, which is all about the Dalai Lama's teachings, and I'm not a religious person. But the teachings, taking away the religious element and the spirituality, definitely opened my eyes to a lot of things, and kindness and gratitude are two of the big things in those sort of teachings. And I also started doing meditation, principally through the Headspace app, which many of you will know about. Again, I've gone through periods where I've been brilliant at doing it every day, and then I've gone periods where it's been a month or two and I've not even noticed that I've not done it, but I've noticed that it's contributed to a downturn in my general health and well-being. So, yep, give these things a try, see what works. You never know. And I talked about doing things you enjoy, and I think, as I said, build time into your daily week, despite, be it work pressures, obviously family, trying to keep your relationship with your girlfriend, wife, partner, whoever it may be, keeping that strong and exciting and passionate and all the other things. Build that time into your week consciously to do things you enjoy. So for me, I love live music. So although obviously we can't go into any live music at the moment, watching concerts on YouTube or any of the other streaming platforms, live comedy, I love seeing anything that gives you that escape. For some friends I've seen recently, it's been getting back into doing art. It can be reading for pleasure, which is hard as a lawyer because we do a lot of reading. But actually, I used to devour books and read when I was younger. So I've been trying to get back into that. Be it meditation, whatever it might be. Just make sure you build it into your week. So it doesn't have to be every day, but make sure you have something to look forward to. Before I finish, and this has come to nearly half an hour, I guess when you're just talking and pouring out, this can happen. But thank you for those that have listened, and whether it's to some of it, all of it. And that brings me neatly on to thank yous, really. I'm not going to name people individually because I don't think it's necessary. Those people who are my nearest and dearest know who they are, and know that I'm forever grateful to them. This is the point where I start trying not to tear up, because there's been a lot of tears, as I say, the last couple of weeks, trying to get the emotions out and get back to a level playing field, really. People have been wonderful to me over the years. I've got friends that I've had since I was, starting secondary school, coming on nearly 20 years, who have, even if they haven't really understood or experienced it themselves, have just been listened and sort of encouraged me to improve and encouraged me to get through. While other people have really sort of got into things deeply with me and tried to bring me round and make me see the world and open my eyes to the wonderful things and the experiences. I've also been grateful to, in a way, complete strangers who have got in touch on social media, or even when I've been, because those of you who know me know I've travelled all around the world with work and for pleasure, and I love it. I love travelling. I love seeing new cultures and experiencing new things and meeting people who I would never, ever have met in my day-to-day life if I'd just stayed in the UK. And some of those, I've had deep and meaningful connections with them, even if it's only been for no more than a couple or 3 days. And I value those experiences and what they've said to me and what I've learned from them about their backgrounds. And so just a huge thank you to everyone, really, from the bottom of my heart. So yeah, I'm going to stop here and just say, like me, I suspect a lot of you out there are striving for happiness, or at least some peace. And at the moment, I'm just looking for some peace of mind. By sharing our experiences of mental health, we can all achieve that. I have faith in that, and although I say I've been looking down more recently, I still maintain that belief that we all deserve happiness ultimately, in one form or another. Please do not hesitate to contact me, email, Twitter, Facebook, phone, text, WhatsApp, whatever. If you ever want to talk about anything I've said on here, I will always try and make time. Again, I apologise, but in a way make no apologies for sometimes, for example, lots of people have been getting in touch during lockdown via LinkedIn wanting to catch up on calls, etc., and I've just not responded. It's nothing personal. I've just had to make priorities at this time, and now my priority is very much my health and well-being, and that's why, I'm taking next week as holiday. Obviously can't really go very far apart from for long walks, which I like doing, another form of exercise. Just to go over some things I've learned in the past and make sure I recognise those triggers and don't get back to this place again anytime soon. So yeah, I'm taking next week off. But when I come back, and I'll be off social media and all that for the week and not answering emails or notifications or anything. But yeah, please contact me. I will get back to you in due course. And thank you so much for listening, and to all of you for your love and support over the years and in the years to come, I'm sure. Have a wonderful weekend, and take care of yourselves and be kind. Thanks.